Good morning. I wasn't going to make any more videos. I just wasn't going to bother my arse. I said I'm just going to watch Netflix for another while because I'm sitting up there watching Netflix. And you know what? Even though there was a festival on here all weekend, I just rather sit and watch my Netflix because the philosophy in it is so fucking deep and it's so much to think about that I was just going to continue watching Netflix. But the truth is, like, I've no one to talk to, or at least I've no one that has the intellectual capacity to understand me. So bottom line is you'll have to do. Yeah, I watched a series called Made. That was really, 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 really fucking good. We had everything in that. We had alcoholism, we had domestic abuse, we had the mother with psychosis, we had people taking advantage of people with psychosis, we had we had we had all sorts. We had incarceration against our will. We had rising from nothing, being able to walk away from a situation and rising up despite adversity, and overcoming this adversity and overcoming this adversity and overcoming this adversity. This is what life for me is about: overcoming, not about victim mentality. It's about overcoming. But you can go either way. You can go, I'm a victim, or I'm going to overcome. You can lie down, lick your balls, or you can overcome. But this is what both were demonstrated. Both were in Made. Made was profound, deep, fucking. Like I found myself, saying, "You Wankstein, you not that." You Wankstein, and fucking then saying to another, that codependent bastard, not that codependent bastard, not him. But then when you sit back from it, and my soul saying to me, do you ever do that, Dave? Do you ever do that, Dave? And I say, yeah. So, the narrative doesn't fit. The narrative that's forming my opinion to call him a wankster and him a codependent bastard, the narrative doesn't fit. The narrative doesn't fit. That these are labels that are being applied to people based on their opinion, but they're writing the fucking narrative. I heard Peterson saying the other day, I'm an expert. You're the expert because you're writing the narrative, you cunt. You're writing the narrative. Do you understand? He's writing the narrative. Labeling people as codependent, labeling people as this, labeling people as that, but he's writing the narrative. And they're this and they're that based on his narrative. Do you understand? But he has fuck all experience. All he has is his fucking narratives. But anyway, that's just Made. But sure, then you have to ask yourself as what constitutes as domestic abuse. And this was raised in it, and they were very strong on the whole point that emotional abuse is domestic abuse. Emotional abuse is domestic abuse. Yeah, your man shouted at her and screamed at her. Yeah, she had the courage to leave, but let me tell you, you think the Me Too movement's big? All I can say is hold my beer. Hold my beer. Because if you think men do not suffer, if we're going to call emotional abuse domestic abuse, do you think men are not the greatest victims in this regard? Do you think when she said I have PTSD from what Joe did to me, I have PTSD if we want to constitute this as emotional abuse. And I tread very carefully as a result of this experience, let me tell you. I tread very carefully as a result of having this experience. Is that PTSD? I think it is. I think it would constitute as PTSD because it seriously affects the way I navigate my life. I really don't want this experience again. No, why should I? Someone else screaming and shouting at you, but rather than address their own insecurities. But we're going to make our emotional well-being everybody else's responsibility. We're going to go into a right shit show. Because I'll tell you one thing. When you start, if we bring in, which it is, emotional abuse, if we label it as domestic abuse, and well, women have an awful lot to answer for, let me tell you. screaming and shouting over small shit like you looked at this person texts you, all because they don't want to address their own insecurities. But by Jesus, we will reduce you to a quivering wreck. A quivering wreck. That the very minute you see our face turn, you will fucking be dropping the shields. You'll be putting up the shields and just bracing yourself for the stop. But of course, men can't be the victims in this regard. Sure, they can't. Men can't be the victim. Oh, I'll tell you now. Let's open that can of worms. Let's open that fucking can of worms, and we'll reduce each other to nothing through the courts of law. Or we can learn to make our emotional well-being our own responsibility, and learn to manage our emotions, and learn how to respond to this sort of adversity without being reduced to a quivering wreck. But anyway, and then there's lots of other things in Made as well. You have to sort of try and understand alcoholism. Your mum was saying, that we were asked in the rehab why we drink. He was asked in rehab why we drink, and he said, I drank because my mother this, because my mother that. So it was his mother's fault, and then he said alcoholism is a disease, so it was God's fault, but it was everybody's fault, but none of it was his fault. In other words, he was taking absolutely no responsibility for himself or his actions whatsoever. They were everybody else's fault. I'm sure this is why he was drinking, but this was to completely not empower him at all. And everybody then at the thing shared their stories. It's my father's fault, it's my brother's fault, it's everybody's fault. But it's a coping mechanism. And first of all, have to take responsibility for yourself first before you can even address the problem, because everybody else, you cannot address this problem. They are not within your control. They are not within your control. Not past, not present, not future. It's important to understand that, and the drink is not the problem. The drink is only a coping mechanism. It's how you use to drink. It's how you use to drink. Everything is how you use it. Everything, including your fucking experience. Everything is how you use it. Everything. That's including people and everything else. And this brings us right back to values. What value you find in everything? What is your use for it? What is your use for it? How are you going to use it? This is what should be the origin of all value. What is your use for it? And that includes people and money and every fucking thing else. What is your use for it? But of course, if you're going to figure this shit out, you have to learn how to think. And then your whole value system changes. Because, first of all, have you even a goal? Did you put any, did you give yourself any purpose in life? Did you put any value in your own life? What are you looking to do? What are you here to do? What are you striving to do? To what end are you striving? As I said, my fucking coffee's gone. I should have got another coffee. What was I going to say then? What did we watch then? That was Made. Of course, then we had The Mother as well. But the thing is, I know an awful lot of artists, and they're batshit crazy. Nearly right up there with me. But this is what makes them really, really interesting people. But you just have to, they too, I can't teach them. You can't save anybody. There's this fucking idea, I see a certain group of people that I've invited me into their group, but they want to save everybody. You want to save everybody. The first thing to understand, you can't save anybody. They have to save them fucking selves. You could just do your role. But ultimately, it's down to them. Because if they don't want to change, all you're doing is compounding their fucking misery, just compounding their fucking problems, imposing your morality on them, imposing your fucking rules on them. What was I going to say? I was going to say something about yeah. That's the next thing I watched. That's the next thing I fucking watched. Sex Life. I watched Sex Life. Someone said to me, that I said, but is anything else good? They said, Afterlife. And I don't know what's your fucking Afterlife. I'm not a big fan of Ricky Gervais, and a lad moping around thinking it's okay to go around and insult everybody and fucking and just be a wanker all day. Right, be a fucking wanker, just fuck off. I don't give a fuck who died of you, who didn't die of you. Fuck off. You know what I mean? Like you can, yeah, everybody can do what they like, but you can go around moping around and being a fucking dickhead if you want. But I'll tell you one thing, I'll very quickly tell you go fuck yourself anyway. Not be fucking hanging around me with that shit. I'll give you support. Be sure your bollocks. And I don't think afterlife, I don't think it's fucking, it's in anybody's interest to fucking promote that as okay, and to fucking again that this victim mentality is okay. This victim mentality, it's okay not to be okay. Yeah, it is. Just fuck off and do it somewhere else. But I was watching Sex Life. You know, now Sex Life was quite good as well. Now it wasn't so good that I was able to carry me through. I think about 7 episodes of it. I didn't even pass the first series, but I had enough. I got what I wanted out of 7 episodes, like, because we had a woman who was of a certain nature, a promiscuous nature. She enjoyed sex. She just enjoyed sex. And then of course she got married and she had a couple of kids, and she was thinking back on the past and how she changed and how she changed. But you had to say what changed. What changed? Did her values change? Did her values change, or did social norms impose a thing on her, or did jealousy play a part in it? Or what exactly came into play here? What changed? Exactly what the fuck changed? Did her values change? Were social norms imposed upon her? Did jealousy come into it? But basically she was bored. She was bored. Because you can change your values in accordance with your nature, but if you change your, if sanctions are imposed on your social norms that are not in alignment with your nature, then you're going to fucking suffer like a motherfucker. This is going to be the cause of your fucking suffering. But the thing is, you know, you have to take your nature into account and ask yourself, do I want to change my values? Do I want to change my values, or am I just going to be controlled and confined by social norms? Or else we can get around that. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, or you could say, here, tell you what, fuck you and your social norms. I'm going to do what the fuck I like. I'm going to do what the fuck I like. But then that's to establish your own values. That's to establish your own values and define your own morality according to your nature. Or change your values in relation to your nature. But this has to be your choice. If it's not your choice, you're going to be one miserable cunt. You're going to be depressed, anxious. You're going to be just a miserable cunt, leading a miserable fucking existence. Up to you, but it's up to you. Then I watch Ballers. Five seasons of Ballers. 5 seasons, yeah, 5 seasons of Ballers. Woo! Now we're into some deep shit. Black Power, fucking, I don't know, I forget the man's name who wrote the book Basketball Slave. But by Jesus, they're all the professional football players, the majority of in this series are black. And they're football slaves. They're being controlled by the white man, you know, by the league. The white man making money out their back. But not only making money off their back, like slaves, they're fucking slaves. They're being shackled. Yeah, they have the money. But this only further enslaves them. And then because like Mike Tyson, they don't know how to control the money. They spend all the money on the bling. The whole thing just turns into a shit show. They end up broke, hurt, but then of course they become fucking victims. But of course, like, again, it's all just back to learning a bit of control. But then the whole good thing about the series was people were actually bringing them on board, and we had an assimilation where they were actually starting to learn how to fucking control their fucking money and how to help each other control their money. But again, family values and friends come into this, you know, because I tell you one thing, the way they stick together was commendable. Like, even when they made a lot of money, they said, these are my homies, these are my fucking homies, and that's commendable. They said, when all this shit is gone, these boys will still answer the phone, and I can relate to this too. So it makes these fucking people important, that you don't forget these fucking people, and don't forget where you came from. But Basically, we can write narratives all fucking day. We can write narratives all day and come from several different perspectives, and we can come back at the Me Too movement. We can look at the emotional abuse. But believe me, when you actually start breaking down this shit and thinking about this shit, the first thing you do is tell Peters, take your narratives and fuck right off. Fuck right off. Everybody, individually and collectively, ought to be able to establish their own values and define their own morality. And now then we have thesis, antithesis and synthesis. Now I make it off this.